You're listening to WCOM LP 103.5 FM Carborough and Chapel Hill. It's a Tuesday, it's 5 o'clock, and that only means one thing. It's time for another round of Snarky Faith with your host, Stuart Deloney. This is a space where we irreverently wrestle through life, culture, and spirituality, all with our heads in the clouds, our tongues in our cheeks, our hearts in our sleeves, and our feet on the ground. At Snarky Faith, the questions or even the answers are never the point. It's all about the conversation. So here's your host, Stuart Deloney.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to another round of Snarky Faith Radio. I'm your host, Stuart Deloney, and welcome back here for another week at Snarky Faith. And hey, how's everyone doing out there? Like, really, me? Oh, thanks for asking. Like, if you want to know how I'm doing, I feel like this weight towards the election is killing me. I don't know if this is kind of how it's working for anybody else out there, because I kind of really see like the future in a weird way of like just two diverging paths of like which way shall it go? You know, this feels like, I don't know, 2020 really just feels like a terrible, like guilty pleasure TV show that you're watching. You know it's bad, but you're like, but what's going to happen next? Murder Hornets? I don't know. What's going to happen? Like, will it be 4 more years of Donnie Darko? I'm not sure, but I'm going to keep watching because really, I feel like we're all living in a cliffhanger right now. Not Sylvester Stallone cliffhanger, though it does kind of feel like we're in that same sense. We're also holding on just by a finger. Will we make it? Will we make it? Yes. One way or another, we will make it. Even though I have anxiety, even though I want to figure out which way we're going, we're going to make it. And we're going to continue to move forward into the way that we need to, irregardless of what happens next week. Like, I feel like that's the right answer I have to tell myself. That's the that's the parental answer that Stuart has to tell in his head. Yes, you know it's going to be fine. But then my irrational self is like, So, much of the show may feel like that today. So just kind of giving you a little bit of a heads up, a little pulse on where I'm at. And I must apologize. Where are my manners? I want to welcome anyone new that's listening to the show. Maybe you're listening on the radio terrestrially right around here in Chapel Hill and Carborough, or maybe you found the show on podcast. Either way, hello, welcome here. The show is Snarky Faith. I'm your host, Stuart Deloney. And this show is the thing that we kind of use to point out the insanity of Christianity in America and really try to dig deeper and talk about, hey, what should we be doing? Like, where will the teachings of Jesus lead us and show us and tell us to go in the world today? So, hey, if you can handle that and a lot of this
sarcasm
and probably a little bit of this too, if you can handle all that, we're good. So buckle up, let's go. So I started the show talking about this election anxiety and really how I'm not completely dealing with it well. But I will tell you what is working for me. And I would love to also hear what's working for you. If anyone has anything that's really working well, send me something. questions@snarkyfaith.com. Email me. I would love this, and I would want to share this with others at some point just to get this out there. But the two things that are getting me through where I'm at right now are, my wife has told me that I need to just begin to kind of just think positively about this. Like, she's done it on the auspice of she's already referring to Biden as President Biden. So she's trying to envision her future and looking towards the sunlight instead of the darkness. And so kind of just self-actualizing and hopefully looking and leaning towards hope. I'm kind of playing around with that one. The second one kind of came out of nowhere. I ended up just by chance starting a guy's book group. And it's been a really fun, life-giving thing, to be able to chat with folks struggling with the same stuff I am. And also just going through just a really interesting book about God right now. So to those guys out there, and many of them purport to listen to the show. So here's what I'm going to do right now. So the rest of those listeners, this is all gibberish, but you can just listen in because you have no other choice. So from those of you from my Little Man Book Club, not called Little Man. Sorry, my men's book club. I don't know why I called it the Little Man Book Club. I think most people in there are taller than me, so this is not a Little Man Book Club. So in my men's book club, the key word, the key phrase you need to work in the next time you see me is solar paneled solar plexus. That's right. The word is solar paneled solar plexus. So if you're actually listening to the show, as you have bragged about doing, if you work it in, I'll know you did your homework. I know you're still listening and someone loves me out there. So that's really the second way I'm coping is just trolling for love on the internet, randomly through my podcast. No, that's not it. No, having good conversations with people, especially people just even outside your home pod. I have great conversations with my wife every day, but it is good to reach out to people that are all across the United States and really just see where they're at and talk about, how crazy this time is and how it's only going to get better, folks, right? Right. Okay. And me beginning the show talking about how I have anxiety and nerves about this. Do you think those on the other side of the aisle feel the same way? Do the conservatives, do the fundamentalists, do they worry? Well, we've got just such a segment for you. That's right. It's back for 1,000 weeks running. I don't know if that's actually true. I'm bringing back the thing that doesn't need to be brought back because it never left us, the Christian Crazy of the Week, where we highlight the insanity of Christianity, and this is the pre-election version. Here we go.
Lord have mercy. The Lord is my shepherd. He know what I want.
Now, I don't know about you, but when I'm worried about the future, I know there's many ways to be able to handle this. Some go to psychics and fortune tellers. Some look to the stars and astrology. Some people may open a fortune cookie, or others will pop a cap of Snapple and look what's under the lid. Maybe you like the magic 8-ball or just the roll of the dice. But not me. Oh no. None of those for me. What do I like, you ask? Oh, I'll tell you. I enjoy listening to Pat Robertson. Because when Pat speaks something, when Pat says something, we all know it's true, right? Yep. I held it together for a little while, but yes. So all of this election frenzy is leaking in, and apparently Pat Robertson had a dream, a vision, I don't know, but I'm going to give you some highlights of it. Pat goes on and on, so we'll just kind of listen, fast forward, we'll make our way through it. And a warning, Pat's vision, it's really hopeful. It's all like rainbows and unicorns, as you'd expect.
Well, here goes. I want to share with you, I was praying on Sunday saying, God, please tell me how it's going to happen. And I hope I've got the word. But first of all, I want to say without question, Trump is going to win the election. And that doesn't mean you sit home and don't vote. That means you get out and do everything you can to work. But he's going to win.
Well, just let me stop you right there, just real quick. Pat's vision here of what the Lord has told him is true. But what I'm sensing from the Lord is if you really believe, Pat, that Trump is going to win and you really believe God's going to do this, just stay at home. You don't need to vote. You really don't. Because if you trust in God, if you have faith, you can move mountains. So why do we need your vote? So believe in Pat, but stay home, evangelicals, because Trump's already won. Wink. I'm being facetious here. There's more, right, Pat? Come on, Pat. Tell me more. Like, does he have a car?
Then trouble is going to happen. He's going to be challenged by the Chinese, as you couldn't believe. He'll be faced probably with some kind of a war. The North Koreans are going to have nuclear weapons. They're going to threaten us. The Russians are going to do everything they can. The Turks have got their things going. And after Trump is sworn in, we're going to see civic disobedience in our America that will just be mind-boggling. The country will be torn apart. But you talk about Trump derangement syndrome, it's going to be horrible. because already without anything happening, we've got trouble in the streets.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and stop Captain Optimism here and actually push back. Okay, we're going to go on a really weird tangent. So this is really just one of like the rabbit trails that like Stuart has in his mind, like these little daydreams. So again, there's no credence to what I'm saying here. So, but this is just kind of one of those, what if, and we kind of go off into a dream sequence where we like figure out what would happen here. So what if, okay, in this alternative reality, what if God was actually speaking to Pat Robertson, but Pat was so much putting it through his own filter, he wasn't hearing what God was saying. Whereas this was a huge warning where God was like, hey, if Trump wins, this is going to be the worst thing ever. You could kind of read it that way as Pat's telling this. Like, I'm going to show you how you think it's bad now under Trump. It is going to get so much effing worse under Trump. So, yeah, maybe like in this weird alternative reality, God does speak to Pat. Pat's just not really good at being a prophet. He's not really good at being a prophet. So he got the words, but he twisted the message. So, maybe this was just a warning. Thanks, God. Noted. But in all seriousness, just make sure you vote. There's a way I'd prefer you vote, but I would just rather see the democratic process roll out as it's supposed to. So either way, go and vote. Because guess what? If you Christians out there don't go and vote, some pretty bad stuff is going to be coming your way. Says Frank Amita. Frank.
Beloved, if just 5% of people who believe in Jesus Christ who have not been voting will go out and vote, it's over with. Tell your brethren, tell your sisters, convict people in the Holy Spirit. Tell them this is about life. How can you go before God and say, well, I didn't know what to do, so I did nothing? That too is not acceptable for God when we can do something. How far do they want us to go? Wait until animalism becomes acceptable and somebody can marry a cow and have perverse sex with them. You think I'm laughing? That's what's going to come.
Frank. You never talk about cow sex and then say the phrase, that's what's going to come. I'm sorry, what? I mean, if he's really going to be speaking in the spirit to us of what's to come, I would hope the spirit would be able to kind of foresee such little pitfalls like double entendres when he's talking about bestiality. Because that seems like something that's on the spirit's mind. In regards to elections, if Trump doesn't win, people are going to have sex with cows. But isn't that what Melania did? Ho-ho! All right, I'm sorry, everyone. That was crass. That shouldn't have been in the show. And it's really Frank's fault that I even brought... Okay, never mind. Yes, Mom. Yes, sorry, Mom. Okay. Even though Frank started it, I didn't have to include it in the Christian Crazy. It's beneath us to have this kind of content on the show. So hopefully, if anyone can forgive me, we can all pray a prayer that after the election, no one has sex with cows.
When I grow up, I'm going to Bovine University.
So moving on. Do any of you out there struggle with figuring out the conspiracy theories? Like, what's real? What's not real? How do we figure out what's going on? Well, you know, the best way to figure out if a conspiracy theory is not real is to have a conspiracy theorist explain it to you. So here we've got like Tweedledee and Tweedledum. Oh, wait, no, that's not their real names. Sorry. The firefighter prophet Mark Taylor and Christopher McDonald here, they're talking about, hey, in the conspiracy theory world, you're either theorizing the conspiracy or the conspiracy is theorizing you. It's about who's in charge of the crazy. And if you want to be confused even more, you should listen to these guys because they're on it. They're on it right now. They got the pulse.
I don't know if you saw the article where the admiral from the bin Laden raid endorses Joe Biden.
I did not see that, no.
Yep, and I said the fact that he's endorsing Biden should tell you what we are hearing about Barack Hussein Obama, Hillary Clinton, and Biden having SEAL Team 6 assassinated is in fact true. He doesn't want justice or the truth to come out. Why would this man do that?
To hide the truth.
We've all learned now what they do, why they do it. This is the guy who was in charge of the raid. He obviously doesn't want something coming out that already tells me that this is truth that's coming out right here. That's verifiable. You know what I mean? That type thing.
Yeah, no, I really don't know what you mean. I mean, I know you had a lot of words, and sometimes those words connected and made phrases and clauses, and sometimes they connected even more and made run-on sentences. But just because you throw a bunch of words into a blender doesn't make them true. Am I right? That's like verifiable. That is verifiable. But you know what's even more trustworthy? Maybe the Lord speaks through conspiracy theories or like from Pat Robertson, speaks directly to him. Well, there's others that are more sensitive in the spirit that may receive God's word through a dream. And in that dream, they may have a vision. Because for some reason, when you talk in this kind of vernacular, you somehow have to enunciate for dramatic effect, but I really think that's how you call the Holy Spirit into being. So, Holy Spirit, she's an old gal. She must be hard of hearing. Because we'll have to say, hello! Feels like we're yelling into a cave. But hey, if God does speak to Harold Kuhneman here, who's going to tell us about what he saw in a dream, it kind of would be like God yelling out into an empty cave as God's voice echoes through the empty cranium of Harold Kuhneman. So maybe if we listen like a seashell, we can hear the voice of God.
God said something. I had a dream, and I'll go very quickly. Before President Trump came down with COVID, this is a documented dream. I contacted several people and let them know.
Sorry to interrupt, but how does one document a dream? We may never have an answer for that one. Mysteries of the universe. Continue, Harold. Sorry.
I was in a room with the president. He asked me to pray for him. I said, yes. He said, now pray the way that you pray. And I prayed for him, and he pulled me to his left ear, which is interesting, Marcus. It was his left ear because God wanted me to comfort him regarding the left.
That's ridiculous, but I'll allow it.
And I said to him, President Trump, they're going to pull you off of the campaign trail. You're going to be pulled off for a short season. Don't worry about it. It's for your safety. But the second thing is, there is coming a Hezekiah moment to your life.
Oh, shit.
Here I was prophesying that he was going to get sick in a dream. And I said to him, I said, but just like Hezekiah, who reminded God of the good that he did for the nation and in the nation, you will have an encounter with God, that you will speak to him privately. But God is requiring this so that he could have access, just like he did with Hezekiah, to the nation, that will extend a time frame to the nation. And you know, President Trump said he talked to God more than you ever talked to him in that hospital. He cried out to God. And just like Hezekiah said, God, remember the good that I've done. So did President Trump. As a result, God extended what was a Hezekiah moment 15 years, not only to the king, but to the nation. Because of what happened with President Trump just recently, he calling out to God has extended God's hand that's going to extend over 3 years.
Thank God for President Trump getting COVID. I mean, him disregarding common sense, science, even decorum. Oh, but God used his emphatic stupidity to be able to reach the president because God needed Trump disabled on a bed, hooked up to ventilators, being pumped up with steroids. Are you hearing me, Lord? Yes, Jesus needed this to be able to give Trump his message because Trump needed to know all the good he's done. The border with kids on cages, everything of the like. God used Trump's COVID to teach him a lesson about how much God believes everything that Trump does is absolutely divine, wonderful, the best ever, the most, the biggest, the most godliest, the holiest. I mean, there's times where God gets a little embarrassed when God's around Trump. God's kind of like, oh, I thought I was shiny. Oh, but you, sir, oh, you rival me. Just a little. Don't worry, because Trump would never say something like that. He totally would not.
I'll say it. Somebody said to me the other day, you're the most famous person in the world by far. I said, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. They said, yes, you are. I said, no. They said, who's more famous? I said, Jesus Christ. I'm not taking any chances. I'm not going to have an argument. Hey, I'm not having any arguments. Jesus Christ. I'm not going to take any chances. I'll give it, I guarantee. And let me look up and I'll say, and it's not even close.
It's not even close. Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. Because when I recall the Gospels, the one thing that Jesus cared the most about was how famous he was. So it's really kind of prophetic that Trump understands the heart of Jesus. Jesus cared about fame, and Trump at least said, hey, Jesus, you're the OG of fame. I mean, I'm almost you. Almost. Right. Almost. Because there's still time for me to be crucified. Wait, is that on the menu? Is Trump getting crucified on the menu? No? All right. I won't get my hopes up. Sorry, that was a weird meandering way for us to kind of step into the conversation that I want us to be having for the rest of the hour. So yes, if I just kind of did an abrupt right turn, we just exited the Christian Crazy a couple miles back, and now we're headlong into what we want to talk about today. So, I began the show talking about how we're just a week out from the election. And so far that we've seen across the country, there's been bits of crazy, but by and large, it's kind of been a very exciting thing to watch. To see people have record turnouts early. My only issue with voting early, which I did, was kind of like, come on, baby. Kind of like, kind of feels like I sent my boo, my lover. I sent them a message, and I feel like I'm waiting to answer, and I just keep seeing the three little bubbles going on my phone over and over, 3 dots, blah, 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 blah. They're going to reply, but I know it's not going to happen for another week. So we're in this weird place where, as I said before, that it's very easy to see that, at least for me, it's been hard for me to kind of be living in this time where I'm a person that likes to kind of look towards the horizon and say, where are we going? And my ability to even see to the horizon has kind of just been boop. This is the 2 roads that diverge in the woods. And one goes to hell and one goes to kind of normally stuffy things. Yeah. So either way, it's not excitement, yay, one's to Candyland. No, but right now, normalishness, stumbling back towards normalishness is literally Candyland from where we've been. So I'm kind of going to become a take what you can get person with this. Meaning that either way, we're going to buckle down. Either way, there is a lot of work that needs to be done that's ahead of us. Whether we see 3-4 more years of darkness under Donnie Darko, we may see that happening. So advocacy is needed, right? Like we have been advocating and pushing forward and pushing back and trying to make sure justice continues to happen. That will continue on. If not, I still feel like it's going to be a path of trying to pick up the pieces and move towards healing and unity. So either way, whether I like which way this is going, this is still going to require a lot of me. It's going to require a lot of you. And I say this all the time on the show, but like in my mind, and by no means are you accustomed to Stewart's rules for snarky living. That should probably be a book. Someone write that down and remind me later. No, but in my idea of, for political discourse, and I've encountered many people, it's kind of been interesting lately. I've encountered a few people that have actually literally reached out to me asking them for questions. They've reached out to me asking me for questions, trying to figure out how they should vote. Now, what I appreciate is they're not asking me how to vote, because if they asked me how to vote, I'd say, I'm not going to tell you how to vote. You need to figure this out. And what's been interesting is I've heard from someone that was a very conservative pastor, and I've heard from someone that was more libertarian, and I kind of felt honored to be a little bit part of the process of what's going on in the ballot box, and I was just trying to tell them, I was like, you just need to like be able to vote how you feel important. I mean, what you feel is important. And like with the conservative pastor, he didn't feel comfortable with voting for Trump or Biden, which him being a conservative evangelical pastor saying, I can't vote for Trump, that was a win for me. I can understand why he can't vote for Biden. So my advice that I would tell anyone that felt torn in this moment, because he's like, I don't feel like I should vote. And my answer is, vote third party. I've done it before. Because it's not just about the presidency. And it's hard because we're in a place where everything boils down to the presidency, but we're voting for a lot of stuff right now. And I told him, you need to be able to vote what you believe. And I'm not going to tell you how to do that. But if the presidency is got you in knots and makes you not want to vote third party and move on. Because I've been accused by so many people, especially because of this show. Oh, me. I'm so persecuted like the president. No, I'm joking. No, I understand what it's like to say stuff and have people push back. No, I've been accused of being a liberal, a Democrat, a far left, or whatever, everything. Also that. But hey, if people want to know about me, honestly, I've been a part. I mean, I think most of my story on air that you guys have heard is that I was raised conservative. It never fit, but that was kind of the tribe that I grew up in. And it's taken me years to be able to kind of walk out of that tribe. So like after the past couple of elections, just for you to even understand where I've been on the evolutionary pattern was, I voted Republican, I voted Democrat, I voted third party, and then I voted Democrat. So if you want to know what I was at over the last presidential elections, Republican, Democrat, Independent, Democrat. Love it or hate it, that's what I've done. And that's what I've told people when they ask me about how to vote, because I am not going to tell them how to vote. I am not in the ballot box with them. And my whole goal is helping people to think through where they're at and vote the way that makes the most sense to them. And in that kind of conversation, that regard, I feel that this show, like our last show that I would say before the election, next week's show will technically be before the election because the show goes out on Tuesday. So the show will technically be happening while the election's going on and still before it ends. But in all likelihood, most people that listen to this, especially over podcasts, will be listening to this post that. Post that will probably be in a place in America where we still don't know who's president because of all the mail-in voting and all the recounting that we're doing. I hope where we are at in that place it'll be leading us in the right direction. But either way, this is where we're at. So this is our last show post that. And what I wanted to do this hour, for our main story, for our main squeeze that we kind of wanted to go through, I had some topics that have kind of been on my mind and in my heart that I wanted to be able to kind of wrestle with and articulate with you guys. And as much of what I do on this show, which is why I really appreciate this show, it's a space for me to be able to dialogue and wrestle out things in my brain, but it's also space for me to be able to wrestle and dialogue with you guys. I have gained many a friend. And when I say I've gained friends on social media, I don't mean it like, oh, someone's liked me, or someone's followed me, yay, you're friend to me. No. Like people like I talk to and like check in on. And I continue to see this space as a place for us to be able to wrestle through where we're at. Now, I know that you could probably ascertain that I am very against Donald Trump. But beyond that, you probably shouldn't know much else about me besides the fact that I'm very pro-Jesus. I feel like Trump has been the amalgamation of everything that is wrong with the church. Now, I do believe that Donald Trump is what the church has wanted. They have longed for, that they've had a hard-on for, probably since the 80s. Now, is it specifically him? No. But just like Trump was to Russia, he's the same for evangelicals. He's what you call, in spy world terms, a useful idiot. Yep. As much as Trump thinks that evangelicals are idiots, evangelicals are using Trump, and they're riding him like their donkey into Jerusalem, thinking that they are having a triumphant entry. But let me stop it there. That analogy is broken from the very start. But what's happened really is that I feel, in many ways, that evangelicals have seen Trump as a useful idiot, but they've somehow masked that in their own weird, warped worldview and said, he's a this, he's a Cyrus, he's a this. But at the same time, what's also happened is that Trump sees evangelicals as also useful idiots, right? So we have two groups of people that are idiots, not just two people. There's a lot more involved in this situation here. So two groups. So we have Trump, and we have evangelicals who both think each are stupid in some regard, but they're using that to get what they want. So what I want to talk about for the rest of the show today kind of is a call to evangelicals and a reminder to the rest of us really where we're at, where we've been, and what we're dealing with. Because for any, I know I have hate listeners. Hey, you guys. Yeah, it's all cool. You can love to hate me. It's all good. Mwah! Right? I have those that love me. I have those that hate me that listen to the show. But with that, I want to call to those that are in the conservative circles and the evangelical world and the fundamentalist world, even though those are all kind of like weird, like Venn diagrams where they're very close but different still. And I want to call them to, in this space, in 2020, because 2020, we've already said, is crazy as hell. So I'm going to ask you guys to do something that would be crazy as hell. I'm going to ask you to make new mistakes. Conservatives, fundamentalists, evangelicals, make new mistakes. I mean, you keep making the same old, tired mistakes over and over in the name of your warped version of Jesus. Hey, what do you think about trying something new? I mean, not real new, just a little new. Try making new mistakes. Because you've made old mistakes plenty, and we kind of know where they get us. And those are hard for you to cover up at night in your soul. It makes it hard for you to sleep. You've got to do a lot of justification. But if you make new mistakes, hey, you don't know how hard it's going to be. It may be worse, it may be better, but You never know till you try it. It sounds like sin I'm offering you guys. But really what I'm offering you is a new perspective of things. To be able to be at a place where you're able to see, hey, I thought it was this way. It didn't play out this way. I'm not comfortable with how it played out, and I want something new. That's simple. And I am one, my wife and I are one, that have families that are suckling on the teat of the orange Messiah. And it can be very discouraging. It can be very hard to have conversations with people that you're related to when you're just trying to say, when your worldviews seem to be so diametrically opposed. So as we speak here, evangelicals, I want to give space. Think of it like this, okay? Because there's a common phrase. It kind of goes something along the lines of this. Fool me once, use my faith, arrogance, and selfishness to appeal to my warped perspective in God. Shame on you. Fool me twice. Shame on me. Now, evangelicals, conservatives, fundamentalists, you've been down this road. It was kind of okay. I mean, you kind of got what you wanted, but it really wasn't exactly what you wanted. Because honestly, you kind of left a lot of your morals along the side of the road as you went. But if you feel like you need to get out of this, here is what you can do. And for those that are listening that are like me, that are like frustrated because there's loved ones and other folks that feel like they are stuck in this weird cult, that it seems like there is no way to be able to bring the cult into the herd because you can't. But we can offer people a way out, a way to leave the cult and re-enter whatever American normal society would be outside of bigotry, misogyny, hate, and selfishness. So, fool me once, evangelicals. Shame on us. Fool me twice. Shame on Trump. Because you don't have to vote that way again. You know why? I heard this on, it was on CNBC. CNBC this week. And they were interviewing someone who had previously been a Trump supporter that changed their mind. People can do such things. It's weird, but it does happen.
We've learned that a lot of suburban women who had never been involved in politics before, Katie, are suddenly activists. And as you know, it was suburban women who helped put Donald Trump over the top. Now, by 23 points, they prefer Joe Biden. Groups like this, it's called Red Wine and Blue. They have just hit 200,000 members. Among them is Hannah. What was it? Coronavirus is one thing. We were just talking about the impact of that really got you on Team Biden. Tell us why.
Yeah, it was just so discouraging to see the leader of our country not take it seriously. You know, in one sense, he was saying it's not a big deal and it's just going to go away. And then we find out he was even lying about that, knowing the danger and not wanting to tell us.
Have you ever been activist before?
Never.
Nothing?
Nothing.
Okay, Cindy, conservative Christian. Is it true you have been in anti-Planned Parenthood marches?
Yes.
And now, Joe Biden, what happened? What turned you?
Well, it was very clear that the Trump presidency has been a disaster in every single way. The George Floyd killing was just so horrific. Our racial reconciliation process is useless. I just saw so many problems in our whole nation, and I thought, nope, this is not going to work again. I've got to look around. And of course, a Democrat, the abortion issue was so hard for me. But once I began researching and realizing how the democratic process works, a president can't shut down abortion tomorrow. Donald Trump is not the savior of the universe. So it became very clear that I could look at another way of voting and having a kinder, more, the soul of our nation would be resuscitated. And Megan, my daughter-in-law.
Who flipped you,
yes,
by the way.
Yes. My sons and their daughters have just been so kind and educating and saying, have you read this article? What do you think about this? And they weren't at all superior or shaming or mom, you're so, they were just so kind, and it became clear that there was another path. I could break that Republican, evangelical, white, upper middle class place that I had lived in for so long.
What I loved about that story was it wasn't simply that people were flipping ideas towards where I think they should vote, because that would be really weird and self-serving. But what I appreciated about that was that you were able to see that people were a part of a larger community. People are part of their sons and daughters or those around them, reminding them that there are different aspects of the ethics that are important to following after Jesus. And from a person who has in-laws and parents that are very blinded by kind of this boomer fever dream of Trump, that he is somehow the amalgamation of so many things from their childhood. He's kind of the epitome of gross capitalism, gross misogyny, gross masculinity, also somehow blending itself with its own sleaziness into evangelicalism and Christianity, and being a voice for the right's morality and pastors. And when you see that, it just begins to get very gross and icky, and you begin to question things. I was raised in a house where they told us that the Bible mattered, that Jesus mattered, that all the things Jesus said mattered, but the things that seem to matter to evangelicals nowadays are a little different. I don't know. What it seems like to me is this. It seems like evangelicals in this age have used politics to be their new version of evangelism. They would hate me saying this, because it's true. But seriously, if you think about this, look at this. Conservatives, fundamentalists, evangelicals, again, many spheres, a lot of overlap, yes. But they, in their core, have had evangelism, going out and making converts, going out and changing people's minds, going and bringing people into the kingdom, right? I want to say this. I believe that in these types of Christian circles, evangelism is dead. That it has been dead for a while. Now, it's still there. Do people go out and still share Jesus and everything else? Sure. But by and large, the new evangelicalism believes in politics. That somehow politics must be part of this. Because I feel like here's kind of how this went. So there was Christianity against the empire. Then we had Christianity under the empire. And then Christianity decided to say, how can we manipulate the empire? Then it changed to, how do we align with the empire? And now we're in a place where they have power. And conservative Christianity, especially in the hands of government, looks like, how do we make the empire believe and look like me? They are at a place, and I know this sounds very alarmist, but they are at a really weird place that I hope is defeated in the next couple of weeks. I hope a lot of this power is cut back, because it looks like that's what's going to happen. I hope that happens. But it feels like they have risen to their apex of disgustingness, where they are marketing an ideological genocide of anyone different than their white, upper class, evangelical Christian views. Outside of that, they do not believe in that. Mike Pence is a human purity test. If he likes it, evangelicals are cool with it. If he doesn't like it, and Mother doesn't like it, evangelicals are bad with it. With Trump, they can kind of deal with him because he's kind of, he's wacky. He's out there. He's kind of our representative. He's the one. He's our warrior. He's our useful but also godly tool that says the things we want to say, but we don't feel comfortable saying those things, but he says it, and he's kind of our leader, so thanks God for bringing someone else in with the potty mouth so we don't have to have a potty mouth. That makes me feel good. Because at the end of the day, if we were to see what were the ethics of this Trump presidency that so many in the Christian world have hailed as being of God, I would probably say we could say what blessed are those that pack the federal courts. Blessed are those that hate abortion and lift up Israel. Blessed are those that ignore everything else and just make sure that we're cool on those three things. And as long as no one gets too far out of line, we'll kind of cover everyone else's butts in this, right? That's kind of the new Beatitudes. But that's really not how it goes, evangelical Christianity. Because as the Beatitudes go in the Bible, in Matthew 5, as Jesus is teaching his disciples, many others come around him. And he says this. These are a lot of the ethics of the kingdom of God. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be fulfilled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, they will be called children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. These type of statements, these type of ethics are the kingdom of God. They are not the evangelical kingdom that has been created here in America. And from the article by Peter Werner in The Atlantic called Evangelicals Made a Bad Bargain with Trump, we're going to reflect on that just a bit. And the article reminds us very quickly, especially recently, that for those that support Trump, that Trump, quote, mocks evangelicals behind closed doors. Because Senator Ben Sass has reminded that lately. And Trump's former lawyer, Michael Cohen, said, Trump had said this about meeting with the pastors that laid hands on him. Can you believe people believe this bullshit? Because that's your orange messiah, folks. Christians that continue to hold to this. And the article continues. It was a great piece that just was a reminder of where we've been. And Werner says this: the less gullible and more cynical evangelicals view Trump transactionally. Trump may be using evangelicals to advance his aims, but they're also using Trump to advance their aims. Many evangelicals have grown enamored with Trump's relentless attacks and aggression, believing that he is inflicting wounds on those that deserve to be wounded. The president might not be a model Christian in his personal life, but they admit he delivers what they want, which is power and influence. And later in the article, it's quoted as saying this: the conservative evangelical David French reminded us that in 1998, during the Clinton-Lewinsky scandal, the Southern Baptist Convention passed a, quote, resolution on moral character of public officials, end quote, declaring that it was wrong to excuse or overlook immoral or illegal conduct by unrepentant public officials so long as the economic prosperity prevails. Because, quote, tolerance of serious wrong by leaders sears the conscience of culture, spawns unrestrained immorality and lawlessness in the society, and surely results in God's judgment. What made sense in 1999 to the self-righteous is dead now. And what I wanted to bring out too was was really what a lot of what has come of this is going to be the generations that are affected because of the bargain that the religious right made with Trump. One, we can see already that the religious right's children have walked away from Christianity. And the article tries to bring this out, saying that it's fine to say that young people that shouldn't judge Christianity based on the actions of flawed Christians or reckless statements and misconduct by those who are in a position of leadership, because the acid test of the Christian faith is who Jesus was, which is correct, but at the same time, that acid test is being failed over and over and over again. Evangelicals are silent on Trump's action and behavior. Their children see this. And this has done incredible and significant damage to the view of Christianity in America. So evangelicals may have gotten a short-term win. Hell yeah! Long-term? You screwed the pooch. You shot a hole in your boat and it's leaking. And it's a big hole and you have no idea how to plug it. But what should we do here instead of just pointing things and throwing rocks? Because I'm good at that. But this article also reminds us this. They quote the book, My Bright Abyss, Meditations of a Modern Believer, from the poet Christian Women, who says this: the spiritual efficacy of all encounters is determined by the amount of personal ego that is in play. If two people meet and disagree fiercely about theological matters, but agree, silently or otherwise, that God's love creates and sustains human love, and that whatever else may be said of God is substantiary to that, though it may not end the dispute, though it neither party may be convinced of the other's position, nevertheless enters and nourishes one's notion of relationship with God. Wenman continues to say this: without radical openness, all arguments about God are not simply pointless, but pernicious. For each person is in the thrall to some lesser conception of the ultimate truth and asserts not love, but a lesson, not God, but himself. And that has been a huge reminder for me to lean back on the ways and teachings of Jesus in these times, to not my own sense of superiority or rightness in this, because that can become very quickly false if driven by ego. But I have to lean back on the words of Christ. And recently, Pope Francis actually spoke on this. Pope Francis spoke recently in his Angelus, when he said these words to remind us of what really matters. He said, all the precepts of the Lord has given to his people must be related to God and neighbor. All the commandments serve to implement and express that twofold invisible love of God that is expressed above all in prayer, particularly in adoration, and love of the neighbor, which is also called fraternal charity, consists in closeness in listening and sharing and caring for others. And he stressed that the verification of our journey of conversion and holiness is always in the love of our neighbor. And as long as there is a brother or sister whom we close our hearts, we are still far from being a disciple, as Jesus asked of us. And in this time, I just want to remind people that is our greatest call. For us to love God, for us to love our neighbor, and for us to figure out how that plays out in the world around us. That happens in how we vote, that happens in how we spend our money, that happens in how we live and the decisions that we make. How do my decisions impact the greater community around me? How do I build up that community? How do I give voice to the voiceless? Help the marginalized feel that they matter. How do I do that? Or you can vote based solely upon what benefits me, what makes me happy, what makes me feel good, what makes me, which you can understand as the way I'm taking this. It's utter crap. So we are either following the ways of Jesus that tell us to lean towards mercy, compassion, and the greater good of all people, or we can vote based upon whatever the hell we want to that makes us feel good. So as I end this broadcast, just a reminder, you can catch us on podcasts at www.snarkyfaith.com and anywhere else you find and listen to podcasts. But get your ass out and vote. It's as nice as I can say it. And also, I send you out this week with the holiest amount of grace and snark and peace. Go and do good, love your neighbor, and love the world around you. Because these are crazy times and we need you to be amazing to keep the faith and keep the sanity. That's all I got this week. I'm out of here. I'll catch you guys again next week. Peace and